Good afternoon and welcome back to Plannercraft. Well, good afternoon, good evening, take your pick. Doesn't seem that long since we were streaming. Okay, so for this session I'm going to be showing you how to use the path tool in Canvas. So I'm going to be using the desktop version rather than the online version, but you have access to the same tools in both. What makes a difference is how we can bring in images. So Ian's going to be busy doing a bit of scanning in the background so that we can send it across to Canvas. But very briefly, have we got any hellos to do? I suppose you can see, can you?
On that one.
Okay, I go look. Oh, not yet. Either that or our comments are being a bit slow. Okay. So the path tool works with these lovely things called nodes. And it's basically a giant dot to dot. So when we click, we're going to place a dot, like so. We can then click and drag if we want to place a curve. Or we can just click if we want to put a point. Why? Is that map being naughty again? So we can do one last one. And we can do a really funky looking flower. Let's sort out that node. That's right down my ear roll. Let's just oh, I didn't want to undo the whole lot, you silly thing. It's going to have one of those days today. Come on. I want this node here. And I'm going to drag it over here. So you can see at the moment it's put the handles in because it's now saying it wants to be a smooth node. That's okay, we can sort that. Because number one, we want our handle to move the other way. There we go. So that we've got this curve here. I'm going to go to this one. And let's see if we can get it to behave. Come on. There we go. So we've got a pointy bit. It's been very naughty today. There we go.
Okay, so we have Sandra says good evening again. And we have Deb, Carol, Marion and Sally.
So we can also use our keyboard keys to move these around. So we can do a little flower like so. And if we want to pop in a circle, can do. And we can shrink that up. And we have a little flower.
Notifications have gone all back on now. Hey!
What's that?
Notifications have gone all back on now.
Yay! I knew going to the page would sort some things. Well, to the group, rather, than the page. So I'm going to pop some colour in there. Just because then it makes it a bit easier to drag it around. So there's one way that we can use the path tool. And if you want to save that, you can do. I might save it for something else. So let's go save as. And I'll pop it in there. So I'll call it flower. So I'm going to go new so I can have a new sheet. So that's Control N or Command N if you want to do it the quick way. And Ian's done a scan, which should be waiting for me, fingers crossed. So there are two ways that we can bring scans into Canvas. One is just simply as an image, in which case we'd go through import from your import from your cutting machine and go to scanned image. It went to the wrong one. Or if you want to trace it, you can go in through image tracing and do it that way.
Carrick as well. It's the first time here.
Hello.
They're on YouTube.
Oh, hello on YouTube. So, first of all, shall I show a spot of tracing?
Yeah,
May as well do it a couple of ways. So, we'll go from our machine, and we can see the piece of paper that Ian cut the centre out of earlier. So, there are 3 different tracing modes available in Canvas. And the third one is enhanced image tracing. Now this one is an additional purchase, so you do have to get the activation card. Don't spend a lot of money on it. You should be spending no more than about £20 most. Okay, there's 2 that's on. The one is really super duper expensive. You want the cheaper one. Works exactly the same way, just has slightly fewer designs on it.
So I had to go on YouTube because I couldn't find you on Facebook.
We are on the group on Facebook, so that's Scan and Cut and Papercraft courses, classes and workshops by Planner Craft, as opposed to going to the page tonight. We've had a couple of instances, haven't we, of things being pinched. So unfortunately, we're trying things out and we're putting them in groups so they stay a bit more private. So if we go to the enhanced image tracing, we can get a bit more control over our scan, hopefully.
I think that's the right one.
So we have
Facebook.com/plannercraft/group.
no /groups/plannercraft. Wrong way round there, Ian.
Evening, Carol.
Okay, so your tools with your enhanced image tracing, you can crop how much of the area that it's going to look at. So if you want to bring it in so it's just focusing on one bit, so we can do that, and we can take the point and we can actually drag it in, drag it there and over here, so we can start to actually look at just this one here.
The bottom one is right, the first one is wrong, so use the bottom one to link to the group and that should take you to the right place.
Okay.
Apologies for sending it to the wrong one.
So I'm just going to draw in the areas that I want it to ignore. Now, this may not always necessarily work, just because there's areas in this one where it's a bit close to the background colour.
That's alright, Carol, it wasn't too much.
That's interesting. They've updated the image tracing.
Work better.
Yeah, because now it doesn't do it every time you draw something. You have to tell it to update. So I'm just going to go around here. So I'm clicked on the little plus because I'm going to say I want to keep that in. And we can trace that around this outside here. And there's a little bit just here that's missed. So let's try that again. So preview.
I just found you on YouTube too, nice on large TV but can't see people's messages.
Oh, it's because we've got the chat turned off on the display.
I think he puts it in the wrong place by turning it on, doesn't it? Over here should be okay, shouldn't it?
Yeah. Let's see if it can do that. It may try and take out the wrong bit. Oh, that's a bit better. A little bit more just there that it doesn't need to put in. So again, you can go preview and try that again. Oh, we've lost a bit, so that's okay. We have an eraser tool so that we can take out anything that we find interferes, so we can pop that back in. And let's just try that line again. Preview. There we go. That's not too bad, is it? So at this point we can go OK. It's going to put an image in anyway so that we can still see our paper underneath, and it's only going to trace that outside edge. So if you want to put like the centre bit in here so that cuts out, then you'd untick that box. But for now we'll go OK.
So hopefully now they should be able to see the comments now. Put the chat box back up.
So you can see here it's still gone a little bit wrong, but that's okay, we can sort that out. That's what nodes are for. Oh, it's missed my basket. So let's give it a path so that we can actually merge those together and cut round our basket. Don't be afraid to zoom in. So to zoom in without pushing any buttons on the screen is Command and plus, or it should be Control and plus on a PC. So we're going to weld these two bits together anyway, so it doesn't matter where I start in here. So I'm just going to click and take it to this outside corner, so it's automatically going to snap to that point anyway. I'm going to click right on that. Going to have to be more zoomed in. Let's go a bit more. And I'll start that again. So, going to go to that outside point there. Across to the outside of our basket. And you just want to make sure you don't accidentally click on a node twice, because what that will do is actually finish your path. We can click. It's got a curve to the bottom of the basket, so we're going to click and drag so that we get a nice curve. Yeah. It's bad last night too. So we've got another little bit just there, and I think you can just about see it on the paper. There's a little bit of a tail just there that comes out. But what I'm going to do is, if I gently curve this section here, so keep your handles quite short on this bit, and then we can just curve it round, and it's just going to cut that a little bit better. And we're going to do the same again. Click and drag to get the curve. Then click to get into that point there. Then have another little bit just here. But I'm just going to curve that gently just there. Back up to the top of our basket. And we can take that and just curve that gently and back to our start point, and that's going to complete our shape. So if you're working with a decoupage sheet where it can't pick up the trace, you can actually do that same process for the entire decoupage sheet if you need to. So something that has a really simple outline is going to be really easy to do that, and you may think, well, actually it's just quicker for me to do that than to even try to trace it, especially if it's got things like drop shadows on, or coloured backgrounds, pattern backgrounds in particular. So some decoupage sheets you do actually have like a pattern background that it sits on, and it can be a bit of a pain. So I'm going to weld those two shapes together. So I've got them both selected, so just press and hold shift so that you've got your shapes active and blue. Then if we go to edit, we're going to go down to process overlap, and we're going to weld. Okay, so now we can see we've welded on that basket. So now we just need to sort out this bit around here and the flowers around here. So let's do this one first. So let's say you're not confident with using a pen. You do have a freehand tool as well, which is much more like using a pencil. So you can draw around the outside.
So, character, how do you stop your pen curves from going all over the place instead of where you want them to go?
Okay, so if you press and hold Shift, it should constrain your handles so that it basically makes them snap to the horizontal or diagonal. And then the other part of it is to go nice and slow. So don't try go really quick. So as you're dragging out that handle, you're moving in a nice, slow, controlled movement rather than trying to go too quick across the page. So with our pencil tool, we're going to click and drag and draw around a shape. So again, don't worry necessarily about getting it absolutely perfect first time. If you want to do it petal by petal, you can do. So just because I haven't got a lot of room to move my mouse, I'm just going to do this bit. Okay. I'm going to press V to go to my arrow, and if I click again, it's going to go back to my nodes. And we can see here that the outline is open. So what that means is it's not a shape, it's still like an open path. So if we were to cut it out, it would still be attached, is the way to think about it. So we want to close that outline so that we can do our weld. Okay. Then again, we can select that shape and our main trace that we've already done. We can go back to edit and weld that.
Sometimes that's got a lot of notes.
So we can go here and here. Up and here, and I'm going to go all the way around this section here and back to where we started. Press V to go back to our arrow, click so that we're on our nodes, and we're just going to close the outline. And we can select those two shapes again, and we can weld the next bit. And I'll do this last little bit. And we can see it's gone a bit too smooth there. I'm just going to delete that and we can do it again.
Okay, so that's a bit clever.
So V to get back to our move tool. Click on the shape to get the nodes. Close it. And select both shapes and we can weld it. And see how we've got these bits in here? We can actually go back the other way too. So let's go for the pen tool this time. I'm going to click to start writing the V. We can click and drag.
Very strange, give us a trophy.
Has it?
Yeah.
What for?
Received 100 messages today.
Okay. Cool. So I'm just going to drag that handle. So just go nice and slow when you're doing these. So now we can see that that shape's going to nest back in here. We can press V to make sure that we have our arrow tool. Press and hold Shift and click onto our big shape. And this time we're going to use subtract. So straight away we've cleaned up that little bit in there. So there's a few other places where we can do that in here. So this one's quite rounded, so I can use my freehand tool. So you can see that they both work for doing this particular action. And arrow tool, select, and you can close it. Now this one has been a bit naughty, so I'm just going to move that little node back to where it should be and drag those handles. So because we do all this editing before we do our subtraction, it's nice and easy. After you subtract, it's a bit more difficult. So we've got this big section here that we need to get rid of. So let's go for my freehand tool. So I'm going to come in here, round here, round there.
So how do you see the little spots?
You just click on it twice and it goes from being like the shape selection to going to the nodes. And that was almost right there, computer. So click it again, and then you've got your nodes. Then at the top you've got your path editing tools, and you're going to close that outline. Okay. Now if you've done something like this and you think, yeah, but there's a little bit there you went a bit too far on, then what you can actually do is edit this shape before you subtract it. So let's take these little nodes here and we can just edit those like so it looks a little bit more flower like. This one down here I'm just going to drag back this way. Yep. And then shift and click and subtract. Come on. Know what's wrong with it. Come on. Let me get that node then. Let's get this naughty little node here. And let's move it away from that point. So if it's misbehaving, you can just use your keyboard keys, your arrow keys, to actually nudge out of the way. So I'm going to make sure that my layers are selected. Sometimes it's easier to do that in the layers panel. There we go. So try not to have your nodes overlapping as such. So if we look up here, the flower head kind of goes round this way, but there's a little bit more detail than what we've got in our shape. Even though we had our smoothing on low. So I'm just going to move my nodes to start with. And I'm going to round that one off. Otherwise it starts to look like you've gone round with a zigzag. So when we click on a node, you can see that you're getting like a blue highlight on the active part of the line that you're editing. So that's what you want to be looking at. Catch up, come on. If it does start to do this where it's jumping, that's saying that your computer's under a bit of stress.
You're under a bit of stress there, do you?
The computer is. I'm alright. Ish. So let's just nudge it with those arrow keys. So this bit round here is really close to this background. So I'm going to press and hold shift and then click and drag on the mat, and that's going to turn my pointer into a little hand, and that means I can move my mat without moving my shapes so that I can see better. So if you're working on something where you are zoomed in, it's a really useful shortcut to have.
Okay, so say I know that being for computer.
It is actually quite a lot of processing load that we put on this poor computer, isn't it, really, when we're streaming, because it has quite a... Come on. Let's just take that down in there. There we go. So I'm going to do this little by little, I think, just because it's really struggling. Let's go. It does misbehave, just delete the line. Start again. Okay, so you want to try and avoid the nodes that are already there if you can help it. And we're going to go down here, cross, down, wiggle it about a bit. You'd be amazed at the things you can get away with as long as you can don't try and cut it straight. And I'm going to go round the outside like so. And it's not too bad. See what I mean about nodes? Go on, which one's overlapping? There's going to be one that's where it shouldn't be. There we go. Come on. It's probably because if we try and get into this one just here, it's crossed over itself. So let's just remove that crossing. There we go. And a little bit more just for this bottom section. So hopefully that's given you a quick overview of how we can use the pen tool and also the freehand tool, which is what this little pencil is, to improve our tracing. Have you got any questions before we finish? I will get Ian to cut this out as well. Just he's borrowed the camera back so that he can see your comments at the moment. Okay. So if at this point you decide that you want to put a little outline around it, you can use offset to actually allow a little extra around that flower. So if we go to offset and let's go down a bit. Two and a half should do it. Outward, and we'll delete our original line. There we go. And you've created a little offset. Might just take that down just a little bit lower. So if you do want to do that, we're going to go inward. And you want to reduce that down to about 1. Okay, there we go. So when we go to send this to the machine, it's going to moan because it's got this image in here to say that it can't send it. That's absolutely fine, you can ignore it, you don't need to delete that original image if you don't want to. So if we go export, and here we go, the image data will not be exported, that's fine. Go OK, and you can transfer it via the internet.
Can you undo the offset too?
Yes, yeah, you can undo it if you don't like it at all, so that you can go back, or you can get offset it back inside if you're not going all the way back, if that makes sense.
Cool, so we left it on there for...
Yeah, it's ready for you to do whenever.
Whenever, tomorrow.
Well, I don't know about tomorrow because it'll unload the mat.
I might do it in a bit.
Yeah. Okay, so any questions before we go? Ian will be back tomorrow. What time do you want to stream tomorrow, Ian?
Probably do an 11 and we'll just do it.
Okay. So we'll see you.
Else planned for tomorrow?
No, other than book. Book and more book.
What day are we on tomorrow?
Thursday.
Thursday. No.
So we'll see you at 11, and Ian's going to be doing...
I don't know, you said there was something you wanted to do.
Oh yes, foiling onto pattern paper. So picking the pattern out of the paper.
Right. Sally says thank you. Or Adrian does, not sure. Carol says thank you too.
Okay. So hopefully you've had a good time watching on Facebook or YouTube. So you can subscribe on YouTube to see when we go live next. And if you ring the little bell, you'll get a notification. So take care and bye.